It's true. Inspiration is vastly overrated. So when I say inspiration is overrated, I am not knocking inspiration. I love inspiration. Who doesn't love feeling inspired? Many of the most beautiful things I've ever created, done, set out to do, accomplished, started with inspiration. It started with a stroke of genius.
Lightning has just struck my brain.
It started with a feeling that made me want to do something, aka feeling inspired. The very reason I'm here today and have the career path and being a wedding photographer and everything I do started with inspiration. About a decade ago, when I set out on this insane journey, I felt inspired. I felt inspired by a few things. I admired a few people. I had this idea of what life could be, and I was inspired. I was inspired to choose photography as a means to, one, never work for someone else or sit at a desk from 9 to 5, to hopefully travel the world, and 3, and most importantly, to connect with human hearts wherever I went and better them and better myself because of it. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine I'd end up with the life I've had, working with my beautiful wife, recently being named #1 wedding photographer in California, and being able to chat with you and teach creatives all over the world. And that all started with inspiration. However, I would not be here if I solely relied on that feeling of inspiration to get me here. I can say a decade later, many, many things are responsible collectively for bringing me here. From hard work, from serendipitous moments, you can call it luck, from the good grace of God, from consistency, from being in the right place at the right time, from choosing to do hard things, for a lot of coffee, a lot of red wine, and a lot of cocktails. I'm just grateful to be here. And if I were to tell you one thing out of that whole collective mess that I just told you, that if it was not there, I know for a matter of fact, I would not be here today, and that is consistency. Consistency, you might be rolling your eyes, you've probably heard it before, I've heard it before, and a few years ago, I read a book that completely changed my life and completely changed the definition of that word to me, consistency. I read a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. He is a genius and a wonderful person, and his argument is the compound effect is consistency plus time. Choosing consistently to do things over time creates remarkable results. Sometimes those things seem meaningless, sometimes they're small steps, but if you choose to show up every day, day in and day out, and do the work over time and quicker than you think, you will end up with remarkable results. Inspiration has its point to start inspiring you, but choosing to show up for that project, no matter what, every single day, is what will get you results. What's going to get you further along in the journey. Feelings are great, but if you rely on a feeling of inspiration to be productive every day, I guarantee you, I give you a decade of trying this. I've tried this probably at least for the first 5-6 years of my career. I leaned on inspiration. We're creatives, everything's attached to our hearts. And if you have tried this, you know, you probably have more failures in feeling inspired to start a project and more projects in the trash or on the loose ends list than you want, because I know that personally, because that's what I have had until I realized if I really want this, I'm gonna feel inspired and I'm gonna use that as a tool, but it's not the only thing that's gonna get me there. And I'm gonna map this out for you real quick, and I'm gonna show you the difference of inspiration and the difference of consistency. Let's start with inspiration. Let's make this line down here time. And we're gonna make this over here inspiration. These two things are very real. Time, obviously super consistent, can't change that. And of course, inspiration, that does happen. But this is what happens when you base all of your productivity, all of your genius, all of your creative time and energy on solely when you feel inspired. Say this amount of time represents when you want to complete a project, whether it's a month, a day, a year, whatever that is. In my case, I usually function in quarters because that's a very tangible goal and it's long enough to complete big projects. And let's face it, inspiration usually starts way up here. I'm usually, when I'm starting something, feeling super inspired. That's why I decide to start something. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to start way up here when you're inspired. Yet, if you only rely on that, this is kind of the timeline that happens. You start inspired, and that starts getting really exciting. But because you only relied on inspiration, it kind of starts to dip when you hit a roadblock, right? But then maybe you remember how good I felt, so it goes up a little bit again. But ultimately, if you're just relying on inspiration, you have a rude awakening, someone criticizes you that you didn't need, or you realize I'm really not good at this, it's gonna be a lot of work, and you have no backbone to it, just inspiration, things start to dip and you start to lose more and more your inspiration as time goes on. And maybe you hit a little bump that it gets you excited, but most of the time what I see is it ripples out slowly until you get to the end of the time you wanted to complete something and you realized I haven't done anything, and actually I'm worse off because I started so excited up here, yet when I was finished, it's here. And honestly, a lot of the time, myself guilty when I finish projects, when the lack of that, when I'm not finishing projects, I'm over here. By the time I get to here, I don't even remember how I felt up here because it just fizzled out so quickly. Now, inspiration does have a point and a beautiful place in all of creativity and all of creating, but I want to show you why consistency wins over inspiration, and then I'm going to show you why inspiration can be fuel when you choose to be consistent. So let's start over. Let's start a new graph here, and we're going to draw the exact same thing here and here. And this still represents time down here. But now let's say up here, this represents consistency, and I'll explain. So we have time and consistency, and unlike inspiration, which I'll explain in a second, inspiration, like I said, usually starts way up here, and it kind of fizzles out unless you have something else that changes that. So let's say consistency means every day, or let's say this is 1 month's time. That means every single day I have 30 opportunities to choose to be consistent, which means I have to start. It's a choice. My first choice starts here, and then every day I have a decision to make, and if I choose it, I get to go up one level all the way up with consistency. So this is actually how things get done. This is actually how you receive remarkable results. Every day I choose to show up. I start from here and I go up a little bit. And then the next day I choose to show up and I keep moving up. And every day, as you can see, it starts in a positive trajectory. And sure, you might miss a day and it can plateau, but as long as your overall decisions are consistent over time, you see the trend here. Now, this is where it gets really fun. Inspiration is beautiful. Inspiration is useful. It is a gift to us. It does not create remarkable results, but when you're choosing to be consistent over a long period or short period of whatever amount of time that project is, inspiration comes along. Let's say inspiration is blue. You've been doing it so long that you're feeling inspired, and on those inspired days, you decide to show up big time, and that starts to project you. It's an extra booster, if you will, into your consistent efforts, and that shows up throughout you choosing to be consistent. So by the time the project comes to an end or the time frame comes to an end, you're so much higher than you expected, and you set yourself on that consistent trajectory. And that is why consistency wins every single time, and that is why inspiration is overrated. Look at the difference. This is what you do when you choose to be consistent. This is when you solely rely on inspiration. Inspiration is overrated on its own, yet paired with hard work and consistency, it helps project and fuel your efforts so you are left with remarkable results, not relying on a feeling or an emotion, but relying on showing up day after day because you're passionate and you know this project will be worth it even when you're not feeling inspired. So whatever it is that you're feeling inspired by, I hope you can see these graphs and realize inspiration is good, it is beautiful, and it is a great starting point. And further on, it's a great fuel and bonus. But the true way to get there is to take that inspiration, choose to consistently show up day in and day out, knowing that it's going to produce remarkable results. Whether that's your frustrations with posing couples, if you're a photographer like me, and I've certainly dealt with that. When I was inspired to be a photographer, I would fail, and all of a sudden that inspiration went away because I got seemingly worse at it because I didn't understand what consistency actually meant. Or maybe it's nailing your Instagram strategy, or it's starting a YouTube channel, whatever it is. I give you my word that consistency is the way to go. And there's a lot to unpack with consistency. There's what are the strategies to make sure you stay consistent? Because as humans, especially as creatives, you know I'm an Enneagram 7. If you watched the last episode, it's hard for me naturally to be consistent. So I build in things that project me into consistency. In the very next video, we're gonna be unpacking that and talking all about it. We're gonna talk about how Jess and I show up on Instagram all the time that allows us to get inquiries that just through the inquiries from Instagram alone massively ups our income. And I'm gonna show you those things. We're gonna unpack those things. If you want to read The Compound Effect, I highly recommend it. It's linked below. Like you know, I am here for you. I am rooting for you. I am here for you and your success. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. Hit the comments. I'm here interacting. Questions are welcome. And until next time, have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the very next episode.